I apologize for missing last week. I was actually with a client and then wound up in traffic and got back way too late to be able to do the show last week. So I apologize for that. I think they went ahead and played an old show, which was nice. I don't know what happened to that blank airspace while I was in traffic, but welcome, and I thank you very much for being here and get some of the lighting better. I'm going blind. So I want to thank you and welcome you all to another issue of the show. You know, I really enjoyed the last few shows where I've just taken questions, and I don't. My husband kind of keeps them away from me, and I don't get to see what they are sometimes. And tonight's one of those, so I like getting kind of the spontaneous questions like that and seeing what happens through that process. And I poured myself a glass of wine, and I think I left it in the kitchen. So I think I'm going to go through this. Hopefully, I don't get dry mouth as we're going through the questions today. So welcome. I want to just start out with prayers for anyone who was involved in any way, shape, or form that got injured, or the families of those who perished in this week's attacks and the riots in the Capitol. Let's keep them in our prayers, and let's all pray for a much more calm week as we go into inauguration week here. Pray for our country, pray for our leaders, and pray that we all can get through what we're going through currently with civility and prayer and mindfulness of other people and other people's feelings. That this is not a time where we need to be attacking one another, but should be a time where we come together to try and solve the numerous problems that we have in our country at the moment. And there are many. So it would be helpful if we could all work together and learn to respect one another's opinions without fighting about it. There is nothing that warrants that type of activity ever. And hopefully we will be able to get past this and move on and all have a more peaceful week and a more peaceful year than we did coming from 2020. And hopefully we'll all get vaccinated and we get back to our lives as we move through this year. Anyway, that pontificating aside, let's get into some questions. I really appreciate it. Keep them coming. I do look at, I think we are missing tonight from Enlightened World Network, perhaps. There was a problem getting on that channel, but we're here on Enlightened World, the Enlightened Living channel. So hopefully some of those people are going to be able to figure that out and migrate over here. If not, we'll probably rebroadcast the show once we're able to figure out how to reconnect to that channel for whatever reason. So the first question tonight, let's get right to it. An MP from Boston asked, do you ever think you're going crazy sometimes with what you get? I'm assuming messages. Do I ever think I'm going crazy? No, it doesn't. You know, it's an odd question because I think that a lot of people who have this gift when they're younger think they may be going crazy, or even people that I work with now. Sometimes they feel like they're going crazy because they're hearing things or seeing things. Or so I guess I want to break that up to people who are gifted versus not gifted. People who are not gifted usually go two ways. One, they know that they're seeing something, they try and rationalize it in some capacity, that they're not really seeing the shadow, they're not really seeing someone that passed, they're not really seeing a ghost. They may try and rationalize that, especially if they're an adult, because we've been taught that those things don't exist in our culture. So I think people there's that rationalization portion of it. And I think there's the other side of that for people who aren't gifted, where they get so frightened and they don't know what to do, and they feel they're going to be ridiculed for saying anything. So they refuse to say things. And sometimes they live with this kind of stuff for many, many years or a long time when they don't have to, seeking out somebody like myself or other people who are mediums to try and help that situation and find out what the issue is and be able to resolve it. And then there's the gifted side of being crazy, quote unquote, or feeling that way, or thinking that you are. I think from a gifted person perspective, I think there are some people who are gifted very early, accept the gift, are taught within the family that it's okay to be that way, to see what you see, and have that support so that they don't feel crazy with it, that it's normalized in some fashion within the family construct or in another way that they don't feel that it's negative in some capacity. There are people like myself who knew that I was different from the time I was 4 years old on, knew I was seeing things that other people could not see, and knew not to talk about it, not to address it with other people, maybe to my detriment, because years later, when I really could have used the help, I wasn't seeking that help. I was just trying to get rid of the problem, which I saw as a problem at the time, seeing things, hearing things. I don't think I ever questioned my sanity or that I was crazy, because I knew what I saw and I knew what I was seeing, and I'm a realist if nothing else, and I do when I know that my senses are right and that I'm seeing things and hearing things, because I was getting validations through that process. The validations helped me. Being able to validate for myself really was beneficial to me, so that I knew that I wasn't crazy. If I knew that somebody's grandparent had died, and I would talk to them about it, and would maybe see that grandparent next to me, know who they were, get their personality, and they would tell me something about them, knew what I was receiving and knew what they were giving me were the same thing. And that's beneficial. An example. Yesterday, I had a client. There's a haunting that I need to go investigate next week. But while I was chatting with with the client, something started to come through already while I was on the phone, and I got, there was something like an IE name, and I told him, I said Willie or something like this, but I said an E something E name. And I said, this person just died. This person was a black male. He was about 6'1" or so, a tall guy, but all his weight was in his gut. He was just had this interesting shape to him, where all his weight was just in the gut, no place else. And that he was wearing a white T-shirt with a black cardigan with a white stripe on it, and kind of described him a little bit. And she said, that's my cousin Mickey, and he just died 6 months ago. And so I went to explain about his personality, what I was feeling, how he passed, and all that stuff. And all of it was a validation for this client. And so that made her feel much more comfortable that I was already tapping into people that she wanted to connect with. So I think I knew, and I've got those kind of validations as a child. And then there are other clients that I work with. And a lot of those, again, I do work with a lot of mediums who are trying to learn their craft, or trying to deal with their gift in some capacity. Some of them just want to shut it off. Some of them want to work with it in a way that I do. Some people want to just understand it better and not be afraid of it. So when I work with these types of individuals, if they haven't spoken to a medium before or sought out somebody for that type of help, I do spend quite a bit of time reassuring them that they're not crazy. And a lot of that comes from, like, their spirit guides will talk to me and let me know what they've gone through, what they've seen, and I will tell them exactly how they're dreaming, what they're dreaming of, maybe had the same dream the night before I go see them, so that they understand that it's coming to me cleanly about what they're getting and how they should be receiving information, and it's not a bad thing. I mean, even myself, and I go to my experience all the time, where I tried to shut this off for many years. I was unsuccessful at it, thankfully now, but it took me a long time to relegate what I was supposed to do with the gift and understand how to separate the good from the not so great energy or spirits that I was encountering. Once I was able to do that, once I had another medium who taught me how to separate the good from the bad, and once I was able to do that, my gift changed completely, and I was on a much better path for myself, both personally and professionally. So I really hesitate. It's a really open question. There are a lot through history, a lot of people who were mediums and were psychics, or either self-described, or what they would consider witches or Wiccan or something. People who had insight were persecuted, were killed, and thought that they were crazy, or were put in mental asylums, because people now, even clients that I deal with now, their son or their daughter is being put on different types of drugs to, because the kids are saying that they're hearing voices or they're seeing things, and doctors take that and they think that they're hallucinating. In some instances, that may be true, or that some younger children may be seeing different types of have imaginary friends. That is also true. That's a part of the human growing experience. But when it comes to a point where a child is confiding in you that this is what they're seeing, and the parents don't take it seriously, the child can feel as though they are crazy because they're not seeing the same thing. And a lot of times with hauntings, particularly nasty hauntings, the spirits will pick on the weaker of the group, or the one that they feel that they can kind of manipulate more, and then not show themselves to other people in the house, and maybe just concentrate on one individual. That makes that person anxious, angry, mad, confused, and all that negative energy that that one person starts to feel starts to feed into this energy. So it's really a depends, quote unquote, it depends kind of case on what's going on. Because again, it could be energy or a haunting, or a spirit that's known to you, or a spirit guide. It could be angelic energy. It could be any myriad of things. But the feeling crazy part of it is trying to make sure that if you do feel that way, please consult a medium. I would ask you to do so, to find out what's happening with you, and maybe figure out how to connect with the spirits on the other side, to understand the messages that are coming through, so that it helps you and gives you that peace of mind that what you are receiving is in fact happening. I mean, I had one client who was seeing things because they changed her medication. She was I think what her I can't remember her exact issue, but the medication that they were giving her made her hallucinate. And when I went to the house, she was telling me about hieroglyphics that were on the wall and things that were being scrolled around. And I was being told by spirit that she needs to change the medication. I'm not a doctor. I would never tell anybody to do that without consultation. But what I did tell her husband to do was to talk to the doctor about what's going on, that this is her reality. This is what she feels that she's seeing. It's not actually spirit related, that there are actual, this is really medication related. And that was conveyed to me by spirit, so that they could go and hopefully modify the medication. That's what I was being told. They went back to the doctor. They changed her medication. I got a beautiful letter from them about a month later that thanked me, and they would put her back on the old medication, and the problem was resolved. So sometimes understanding what spirit's trying to say, understanding the reality of the message, makes you feel not so crazy. So don't feel crazy. Try and figure out the source, try and figure out what the reality of the situation is. And there's so many ways and so many situations, it's hard to put them all under one circumstance. But the question was specifically whether I ever felt crazy. No, I don't think I ever really felt that way. I questioned the gift from time to time about the ability, why I see this, but I never questioned my mental state, because I knew what I was seeing and what I was feeling was true. And it's all borne out to be that way. And I wouldn't be able to work with my clients if I didn't see or feel, sense what I was getting. And I'm happy for it now, not so much when I was a kid. So if you do have children, again, I think I mentioned this in another show, if you do have children that are gifted in some way, please listen to your children. And if you have a question, don't automatically perhaps go the medical route. It's worth a phone call to someone that you trust, or find a medium that might be able to help you. Ask some questions, and let's check the energy and the energy level around an individual. There are many people that can do this, and it's will give you peace of mind, and give the child too peace of mind. And also, the medium can help the parents try to figure out exactly how to work with a gifted child, because that's not something that's really innate in most parents. It's not something that comes with a parenting class, or that's easy to read about, quite frankly. So try to figure that out. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Happy to help in any way that I can. You can reach me at Robert Painley at spirit-focus.com, or rapainley@gmail.com. or contact me through my website, www.spirit-focus.com. Any of those ways will get you to me, and we can have a longer conversation. Next question. How does all the anger going on in the U.S. affect the energy? I don't know what you mean by the energy. Let's just throw it out there that the energy from this past week was horrific. I think everybody was affected by it in some measure. So I'm going to go more generic. I don't want to look at this from a political perspective, but I kind of maybe broaden this out a little bit. Anything in your life that takes you off of a more even energy level is going to affect you. So I don't care whether you're gifted or not gifted, events that cause stress or anger or angst or consternation or any of these emotions that unsettle you in some capacity have the propensity to change how you receive information. For example, if I think I've said before, if I have alcohol, if I have a drug in me that's prescribed that I need to take for something, that can knock me out of my radar. There are some mediums I know that get more information when they have cocktails. I'm not one of them. So it really kind of depends. The best thing I can say is staying in a prayerful state, staying in a positive state, surrounding yourself with people who are positive, trying to remove the negativity from your life as much as possible, and the stress from your life. Ground yourself. All of these types of things will be helpful to keep you on a more even energy level where you can better receive messages from spirit, particularly if you're gifted. But even if you're not, I know a lot of people who aren't gifted, but they're empaths, for example, who sense and feel energy in a very, very strong way, and feeling, picking up on the energy that's going on in the atmosphere, in the world, or having coworkers say things to them that drag them into their problems, their world, is challenging. Look, let's be honest. COVID has been horrendous. People are losing their jobs. People can't pay their mortgage. Can't pay their bills. There's some people out there who are very lucky. My husband and I are very lucky. We consider ourselves that way, even though obviously we ourselves are affected from an income perspective. We're not hurt as badly as some other people are. We pray for all of those people all the time. But there are many life factors going into people's lives at the moment that are causing them to lose faith. And I think one of the things that we all want to do is understand that these are challenges. You shouldn't lose your faith over it. Quite frankly, it should do just the opposite. And you should have more faith in better days, faith in yourself, faith in your friends and family, faith in God, asking for strength, asking for help. It's all important. It's all necessary. And don't be afraid to ask for it. It's okay. This is why we have spirit guides, and why we have this angelic energy around us, why we have enlightened beings around us to help us achieve and grow. That's not always possible. And I know it's hard to see the forest through the trees sometimes, but have faith. Faith goes a long way to help make things better. And sometimes it continues to get worse, even though you have faith. But I'm a huge believer that once one door closes, another one opens. It's been true throughout my life. And I've been very successful in a multiple of careers and doing things because I just throw my trust that things are going to happen the way they're supposed to happen. And sometimes losing your job. I had a client this morning that called, and we had a reading. We had a tarot card reading with her about 9 months ago, maybe. And everything that I told her is coming true and has come true. And she got a new job, and she's starting, and it's a great job, and she's going to be doing some other things at the moment. But she too started to lose her faith through this process. And she called me up a couple times between the original reading and now. Just like this, I'm still seeing the same thing. Have faith, keep this is where it's going. This is what's going to happen. And she kept the faith. And during COVID, while other things were crashing around her, she started to attend church again. She found some additional faith for herself, and it was lovely. It's lovely to see that type of growth, especially from a spiritual perspective in another human being, and to see her blossom. That made me feel good today. Having that conversation with her, I'm happy for her, and I'm happy that things in her life are turning for the better. Uh, Even while others are struggling out there, if we can all just continue to keep the faith, and pray for ourselves and for each other, that goes a long way to help the current environment that we are all in. Okay. I know it sounded a little political. It's hard. So with some of these questions, you leave them, if you want, you leave them very general sometimes, and I don't know where to go with them or if I'm answering the question, but I try. So if I don't, write back and I'll answer it more specifically. Next question. I had a reading once and the relative I wanted to hear from didn't come through. How do I get someone to help be, how do I get someone to help me get a message from them? You may not. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Big proponent, as I always say, I think to almost every client that I go to see, you're going to get what you need, not what you want out of a reading. And sometimes the person that you want to hear from, for whatever reason, may not be able to come through, doesn't need to come through, doesn't feel a need to come through, can't come through. They don't have a message for you. They don't want to come through. Whatever that happens to be, because you want it doesn't mean that it's going to happen. And understand this kind of the limitations of any medium. You're going to get, I mean, I can ask, and I do that. You know, I may get 13 people for somebody, and the one person that they wanted to hear from didn't come through at all. That's challenging for me, and it's made me a little crazy sometimes from the aspect of I really, really, really want to get information for somebody, but I'm also incredibly uh, uh, honest with all of my clients from the aspect that I will always give them what I get. I will never tell them anything I don't receive, and and if I don't get something, there's nothing to give. And I'm just very honest. I'm sorry, it is what it is. I'm going to give you what I get. And it usually works out for the best. A few clients have not been pleased with that answer or that response. But again, I have to tell them, I'm kind of like a mechanic in that way. It's like something you can hear a rattle in the car the entire time, and you take it in and to a mechanic, and the mechanic, you're saying, hey, the engine's rattling. You pull it in, you turn it on for the mechanic hears nothing, it's silence. And, and you're saying, hey, I hear this, it's doing it all the time. I don't know what's going on. And the mechanic said, look, I'm doing an engine diagnostic, and this is wrong with the car, but it would cause a knocking sound. So you get what you need because the computer's telling you exactly what's wrong with the engine, as opposed to trying to find out what that clinking noise was. So I'm a whole sidelight. I had that one time. I bought a lottery ticket, and just in case, I bought a lottery ticket, and the lottery ticket itself fell in between, where the air comes out at the window ledge. I had placed one of the lottery tickets on top of the dashboard, and it fell down into the vent area. And every time I would turn on the car engine, I would turn on. I live in Florida, so we're in the air conditioning daily here. And it was blowing that paper around and was making the oddest noise. For the life, I couldn't figure out what that noise was. I had no idea. And I went in to have my car serviced, and I told them about the noise, and it turned out to be a lottery ticket. So I'm throwing things out there tonight, but again, it's not what I wanted to hear. It's not what I expected to hear. But he found the source of the problem, and and the same thing happens with spirit. I don't know what I'm, it's kind of like a car. As a mechanic, as a medium mechanic, I'm walking into a situation where you're telling me what you think is wrong, and I'm going to get from spirit what they think you need to have so that your life is on the right course. And that's what I do. So if you don't get what you need, what happens is sometimes that may occur on a second reading. I don't really take clients too close to one another. I usually like to let them wait at least 3 to 6 months before I'll do another reading for somebody. But I would I would just kind of let people know that in this regard, you just kind of need to understand that we are human uh, as mediums, and we can only get what spirit gives. And if you have a psychic reading, if somebody's doing tarot cards now, I may be able to come up with something via tarot that is different than a mediumship reading where I'm actually talking to spirit. I usually do both when I do a reading. I will do tarot and a mediumship reading for people at the same time. There are some people who just want a tarot reading because of the nature of the specificity sometimes of tarot over maybe what I'm getting when I'm getting an inkling or a feeling, or I'm not being told specifically from spirit what I need to know for someone. So I use both when I do what I do, and particularly if I feel I need to. And uh, so I just want people to understand, don't blame the medium. I mean, some mediums, I hate to say, are better than others. I just think the skill set is different from certain mediums than others. Even though they may have the gift, there are some mediums I know only hear. So they're clairaudience and they only hear very distinct messages from spirit. Some people may only see spirit, like I see angelic energy. I told people, I think last week or the week before, when I get angel, I don't talk to an angel per se. I get a yes or no answer. That's my communication with the angelic realm. I will see them, I can interact with them, but I have to ask yes or no questions. There are other mediums that I know that get messages directly from the angelic realm. That's not me. Okay, let me rephrase that. I do, but I have to make sure I phrase my questions correctly so that I get the answer that I'm anticipating from them. So it's just a matter of when you go, understand what the reality is of going to a medium or a psychic or using a Ouija board or whatever you're doing. Understand that there are limitations. There are some people that have different gifts than others when you do go down that route. So if you went to a medium and you weren't satisfied with the information that they were getting, I may suggest going to another medium who maybe have a different skill set to get the answers that you're looking for. But understand sometimes that if you don't, even from another medium, it doesn't mean that the spirit doesn't want to interact with you, doesn't love you, didn't care about you, or whatever. But there could be a myriad of reasons why that spirit does not communicate. They may still be learning lessons on the other side and can't. They may be new to spirit and aren't sure how to do it quite yet and communicate with people on this plane. They could be stuck and not in spirit, and they could be stuck on this plane and are unable to communicate with you in some way. So it really depends. Depending on, I don't know, you didn't include any of the specific circumstances. But if you have a question, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll see if I can connect with who you want to connect with, and we'll see if we can get the answers that you're looking for. Okay. Let's see. Wow, time is flying. Let's see here. You made a comment that you didn't like horoscopes one time. Why not? Okay. Let me clarify. I personally like horoscopes. I don't have a lot of faith in them sometimes. I look at it from a sheer numbers perspective. That if there's 12 zodiac signs, and there's 360 million people in just the United States alone, how that one sign is absolutely true for, I don't know, 24, 25, 30 million. I don't know what that 12 into 360 would be, but 30 million people. So I don't know how that would, so I look at the specificity that it could have. So I look at it from a general perspective, usually when I read a horoscope, and I look at it for fun. I think that reading charts, I think is much more important. So if you know the time of your birth, the time, and the day and all that sort of thing, and find somebody who does that well, and get a chart done for yourself, a personal chart, I would recommend that rather than, opening up the daily paper or, the National Enquirer or something and looking at what the horoscope has to say. I even look at some of those sometimes and I kind of look, I'm going to have a good week on that. Doesn't always turn out to be true. But it's just, I think it's human nature to, some of them are very general and you can read in a lot to them. So it's not that I dislike horoscopes. I find that for me, just the possibility that I would find something specific to me and 30 million other people to be exactly the same would not be exactly how I would look for information from spirit. That's just me. If you enjoy them, read them. If you, I mean, I do enjoy them too. I will read them when I get a paper and that sort of thing. But it's not something that I would personally uh, that I get involved with on a daily basis and put tons of stock in. I read my own cards sometimes. I have tarot card readings done for me. I have friends who are mediums who give me information that and I trust them, so I rely on that information much more so for myself than I do reading local newspaper horoscope. That's just me. So take from that what you will. So it's not again, not that I dislike it. It's just for me, it's too general, yeah, for my taste. Okay. Can you tap into someone that died 50 or 100 years ago as much as somebody who died recently? Um, yes. So it really depends. It's very strange. Spirit is strange that way. I have it's challenging for me, and I usually won't read for people who recently lost somebody. And it's not usually from a spirit perspective. It usually has to do with what we would call the living, those on this plane that are left behind after someone transitions. For me, the grief. So when I go and I try to do a reading, I will get the grief, the sorrow, and the love, and all of these things from those left on this plane, and that makes a challenging read for me because I'm so bombarded with all of that emotion that it's hard sometimes to cut through that to be able to talk with the other side. Now, other people may not have that issue. I'm telling you, with me, that somebody who's recently passed, I don't have so much an issue with the spirit as I do with those that are left on this plane and cutting through that emotion. There's been times where it's not been an issue at all. I've gotten somebody who may have committed suicide or died accidentally. 10 minutes before I see them here at the house, because they know that this is what I do and they visit me. And the person that they want to communicate with may not even know that they've passed yet. So I will get that type of energy. So they're here, they're quick. And then I can, once I know that I've connected with that energy, then I have no problem doing a reading for somebody that quick. And I have done that for people, somebody who was passed or transitioned, within 24 hours, I've been doing a reading already because the spirit is that strong and I get the information. Again, I don't, I let people try and deal with their emotions typically first before I'll go ahead and do the reading. That's all about me. Now, spirits that are 50 to 100 years old, some of those spirits will naturally transition. So there's a difference for me on how you're perceiving spirit, right? So you can have a spirit that is in residence. So you can have a ghost in the house. That energy can remain a long time. You can have residual energy in a home or a place or on the land for a very, very long time. When I go to battlefields or places of conflict or castles or old hotels or things, I get so much energy and stuff. This stuff has been around for hundreds of years sometimes. So, and it's easy for me to connect with that energy. So it really depends. There's so many depending issues. If I had something that was very specific, I'd give you a very, very specific answer to it. But I've traveled all over and I've seen a lot of things and I felt energy in a lot of different places. So connecting with that energy for me, whether they passed 5 minutes ago or they passed 100 years ago, I can sometimes the energy that's 100 years old, I will connect with faster than I will energy that had just, just transitioning or just transitioned. So it's a hard question to ask or answer without a specific case involved for me, because energy is energy, and sometimes it's stronger, sometimes it's weaker. It really depends for me what the circumstances were, who it is, what they're trying to convey, the strength of that soul, because sometimes some souls are very laid back, some are very up in my face and are insistent and incessant in trying to communicate with me. And you've heard my ghost stories before, so you will know that it has some very, very persistent spirits around me for some at times. I have one now that has been with me for 3 days. Still have no idea what he wants. He's hanging around, so it's somebody that I've got 2 hauntings that I'm going to be doing this week. It's more than likely related to that, but haven't pieced it together yet, and he's not talking, so I'm kind of on hold. It's funny. Spirit sometimes doesn't give me a direct answer, but there's a reason why I encounter souls and why I encounter spirits the way that I do. It will come to me when it needs to come to me. And I think one of the things that if I can give somebody out there who's a burgeoning medium some advice is let it happen naturally. Sometimes when you try to force something, it makes it worse. So I've learned through process just to, when the soul's ready, when I'm supposed to receive the information, I just allow myself to always be open to it, try and stay grounded, try and stay protected, and try and stay on an even keel with my energy most of the time. And when I'm having a phone call, I can usually just tap in, very quickly to the energy that I need to, so that we can help the client that's calling. Okay, so I think hopefully that answered the question. I can't tend to go off on tangents sometimes, but it gives me I get a lot of stories. Next question. I think I feel my cat around me sometimes. He died about 7 years ago, and I have 2 new cats now. Sometimes they run into the next room for no reason. Could that be my old cat? Yes, it can. When stuff like that happens, I like to look for, again, as I've said many times, I like to look for the rational before I like to look for the spiritual. Just me as an inquisitive human being, I like to look to see if it's something that I need to be aware of. A lot of times, I had one woman who called me and she swore she felt her cat moving around her legs while she was there typing at her desk, like I am now, and she would feel the cat moving through. And I was being told that there was a register, in the house where she would get the warm air blowing through. Well, that's what it turned out to be, was just air blowing out from underneath the desk, and she would feel this rustling around her legs, and it would turn off and go away. And she thought it was coming and going, when it was actually just the heat in the house, or the air conditioning kicking on and blowing this and moving this air around. So that's one instance where it wasn't spirit, right? But I am blessed in the fact that I do connect with animals very well. And now that my little fur angel has passed about 1.5 years ago now, she's very, very good about giving me information, particularly on health issues as it relates to animals, and transition times for animals, and so that their owners know what to anticipate from maybe health perspectives, and maybe the length of time or what to look for when the end is near. Like I said, I don't read death, but I will give indications on maybe what to look for, so that the animal remains in a comfortable state. And they don't try and overcorrect in some capacity. Or, like I had one gentleman who, this poor dog, lost the use of its hind legs for 2 years. This thing was crawling around the house, and the dog was just like, it's time, and some of those ones that I go to are hard in that way. But because humans, we have a tendency to anthropomorphize animals and animal behavior. So I would look at that. The other aspect of this is, particularly with cats, cats just get up and run sometimes, because in the cat world, they like to keep their muscles activated. And it's one way for them to wake up. That's why you'll see them stretch, and the way that they stretch helps activate their muscles and gets them moving. It's the same thing that humans do, basically through calisthenics, and why we warm up, or should warm up, before you do a workout routine, is to get that blood flow into the muscles and into joints. Same thing happens in the animal kingdom, where sometimes they just move real quick to get the blood flowing. So it really depends. It's hard for me to tell with the information that you provided. But I do have a lot of instances where animals do remain in the house, and they're watching over not only the owners of the home, but the new animals, and the animals do see them. It happens a lot, quite frankly. So anything's possible without more specifics involved, or without me feeling the energy in the house or seeing this animal in the house. I'm not tuned in at the moment, so it's kind of hard for me just to throw it out there. But I feel... I I'm hesitant to go out and talk about this animal because I don't know if you want me to do this and give permission. Contact me through Instant Manager or Instant Message, I should say. DM me and maybe we'll be able to figure this out a little bit more. But I do see there's a couple cats around you. So I don't know, there may be one cat that's living and one cat that's passed, but I feel that there is a black cat that passed. It has yellowish green eyes, and this cat was on the smaller side. And this cat is trying to communicate. And apparently there is another cat that it is very close to. And this cat is kind of mostly gray with black striping on it. And it sleeps near this cat. And I think that there's a connection personality wise with this cat that I don't know if they knew one another, but they're connected now in the way that, so you would, if you do have a cat that looks like this, which I'm going to presume that you do for the moment, we'll talk later, but this is one of those things that's around this cat for a reason. And this cat, I hate to say has ability, but it can see better than the other cats can and is more tuned into spirit than the other animals that you have had or have. And so there's a reason that this cat is the one that's in spirit is kind of guiding this. And I feel it's letting me know that you apparently are particularly close to this cat. And so I'm going to leave it right there for the moment because I think that there is a reason. And there's also, I feel a little bit of a health reason for this because I feel, okay, didn't plan on doing a reading. The black cat, I think, died of renal failure. It had issues at the end, and it lost a ton of weight at the end. It's letting me know that this cat, I think, also has the same issue. So if you're watching this, if you haven't had an animal checkup for this particular cat in some time, please do so because I feel that there is something with this issue with this animal that needs to be taken care of, and it particularly has to do with renal failure. And I think that there is actually a disease involved with this. So I think that I don't think there's anything that they're actually going to be able to do other than make the cat more comfortable and have less issues in this regard. So it's going to be a managed issue rather than a cure. Okay. Let me know. It'd be great to get feedback, and I'll let everybody that's watching know as well. Let's see. I have 3 more questions. Let's see if we can get through them quickly. What books do you read to learn more about spirituality? I'm hesitant to give recommendations about books that I haven't read. And I'm a little bit, I'm a big biography guy. So I have read some biographies about mediums and mediumship, people who have worked that way, particularly spiritualists from the 19th century. But recently there are a few mediums that I like their story because their story resonates with me, how they were brought up, how they grew up. I look at somebody like Rosie Shapiro and how she saw it from when she was 3 years old and how, she had her gift accepted early on and she worked through what she did, from her skill set perspective and the growth and the constant nature of her gift. There are other mediums that grew up and had the Catholic upbringing that I did, that saw at the same time, that see the same way. So it's interesting for me when I run into a medium that sees and feels and senses the way that I do, because it makes me feel more connected to the gift in that way. That hard for me. It's hard for me to articulate this. Let me get back just to read the question again to make sure I get it right. Books about spirituality. So it's hard for me. I don't really read books about that tell me how to be a medium. That turns me off quite a bit. I know what I do. I know how I do what I do. Obviously now I'm tongue-tied a little bit, so it's hard for me to explain sometimes what I do. But I think reading other people's books on if you don't do it my way, and they tell me, then you're doing it wrong or incorrect. I find that hard to swallow. It's just how I am as a person. I'm very independent, but I also have been doing what I do for 53 years. Don't think there's a whole lot of people on the planet that are going to tell me to do something different than I do. I'm open to suggestions on how to protect myself, on how to do other things. But somebody telling me that I'm doing something wrong kind of rubs me the wrong way sometimes. So I don't get involved in that type of book that is more of the self-help. When I work with clients, for example, I sense their gift and what they're supposed to do with it. And sometimes I tell them, sometimes I don't, because sometimes that journey of discovery is something that they're supposed to go through. So I can't interfere with that. But when it comes down to providing people, like I don't mind resources on, for example, how to connect with angels. But if I told you that if you're going to connect with angels, you have to do it this way and you have to do it my way. If you don't do it this way, you're never going to connect. No, I don't buy it. I know too many mediums and too many psychics in my life that receive information in different ways. It doesn't make one better than the other. Just, again, our gifts are different. But I would never try and change somebody's gift that had one. That's not my job. My job is to come when I'm working with somebody who is gifted, is to say, this is your skill set. This is how you're working with this right now. Have you ever considered X, Y, or Z to amplify this gift? But I would never tell anybody, do it my way. And if you don't do it my way, you're wrong. And that's where sometimes these books will do that. And that would be an irritant for me. So just don't read it. I have read several that I really have enjoyed. Maybe at one point I will put those out there, but I want to be sure that I connect with the authors of those books before I just go ahead and throw my 2 cents in for whatever it's worth. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend any. I don't have anything to recommend at the moment. I know, that I think there are some people I know that are working on a book now that I can't wait to read. Looking forward to it. And there are some others that I have read biography wise that were great. There were a couple out there that had some useful tips in it that I found really helpful, even to myself. One of those was Kim Russo's book. I think second to last one that had it had kind of her history on it, and some of her experiences, and kind of for a new person looking at mediumship or spirituality in general, it gave some interesting tips. That one I enjoyed. There's some others, a couple of John Edwards books that I enjoyed immensely. But again, by and large, I try to stay away from other mediums' work because I don't know how it's going to affect how I perceive spirit. So I try to avoid that. I would only do that with people that I trust very much, where I take their advice. And there's very, very few of those that, for me anyway, that I would trust in that way. What do your family and friends think about what you do? Interesting question. I didn't tell anybody for a long time. So I think that was kind of the hardest part for me. I came out as a medium very late in life. People, my very, very close family, knew that I saw things, did things, but I never told them what I did or how I did it. It wasn't only still a couple of years ago that my older brother saw me do what I do. When he had a ghost in his house and I discovered it, and she came through and had messages for them. That's when he saw what I did. My dad knows, my mom knew only basically at her deathbed. She knew earlier because I told her things, but she didn't want me to be, not, I hate to say ostracized, but be bullied or picked on because of what I would say about what I saw, sensed, or felt. So I think most people know. I think a lot of people are, I'll say a lot. I think most people are very curious about what I do and are curious about how I do what I do and the circumstances about cases that I have worked. Sometimes when it's missing persons, or sometimes when it's a haunting or things, I think over dinner parties, I think people find that fascinating. But when we're not in that setting, I think some people are amused by it or find it interesting. I don't know if they understand it completely because they've never experienced something in the spiritual realm, so they don't know how to go there. They're very, very religious, and some of those very religious people think that I'm doing something that is anti-religious, perhaps, and it's just not. So and I don't want to have those discussions. They're very nice people, and a lot of these people are acquaintances. But I think of my close family and friends, most everybody has been incredibly accepting of this gift. What's funny is that the more people in the family, my cousins, aunts, uncles, and stuff, the more people that found out what I did, I would get little side phone calls saying, I've had this experience, and you know what, this has happened to me. So it's kind of funny that my being so public about it has allowed other people, has freed them up to be a little bit more expressive with their gifts and what they do and how they perceive spirit and being open to talk about it. I never talked about the subject with my dad before, and now we talk about it all the time. He knows what I do, and he's interested in what I do, and he's got spirits at the house, and we talk about it. And it's just not a subject that's taboo in my family any longer. Although when I was growing up, it kind of was, because my mom didn't want to be known as a person who had this ability in town, in a very small town, and she was trying to protect me by not letting people know or me express what I was able to do. So I think they all find it curious and interesting. How much they believe. The ones I've done readings for, I think, are true believers. I think those that I haven't done readings for and I've heard from other family members about what it is that I do, I think they're all extremely curious and, want readings. And, family reunion is about, chatting with family members and seeing if anybody's coming through for them sometimes. Anyway, I will end it there tonight. I had one more question, but we'll save that for another time. I really enjoyed this. I hope that you did too. I really enjoy answering your questions. So if you have any more questions that you want me to answer, please feel free to contact me. Again, you can reach me at Robert Painley at spirit-focus.com. You can reach me at rapainley@gmail.com. The name is right up there, so you can get it right. And I think you can contact me via Instagram or Facebook. And I look forward to chatting with you. If there's something I can do to help, please let me know. Rosie Sapiro, I'll end with Rosie Sapiro and I are trying to get a couple of dates together to do an upcoming class. If that comes to fruition, it'll be here in Florida, and I will give dates and times and what that's about on a future date as we start to promote that. We're in the planning stage right now, and if that looks like we've got a complete go with a venue that is safe, safe-ish with, at least adhering to COVID restrictions, where we can all get together and have a good day talking about how to increase our spiritual awareness and how to work with our gifts in this coming year and help amplify those gifts. That's what we really want to try and get together and help others in 2021. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining, and I look forward to getting additional questions from you. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you here next Tuesday on Spirit Focus with Robert Painley. Thank you.